Hi, this is Jerome Davis. I'm the Artistic Director of Burning Coal Theater Company, and in this, our 27th season, we have started a new video interview program where we're talking with artists that are directly connected to the main stage productions this year. And for this interview, we have Simon Kaplan, who will be playing the central role of Andy in Harold Pinter's Moonlight, which opens on November 30th and plays through December 17th here at the Murphy School. Simon, welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you back again. You are not new to our company. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about some of the other things you've done here at Burning Coal, or with Burning Coal?
Yeah, most of the shows I've done have been here at Murphy School. My first show was Written on the Heart by David Edgar back in, I think, 2016.
Right.
And I played Chatterton in that, who lived to the ripe old age of 104, which for those, what was it, the 16th century?
Yeah.
Was a pretty amazing age. What else have I done? I was in Charles III, yes, by Mike Bartlett. Probably one of my favourite productions, definitely my favourite production here, and one of the favourites I've done in the last 8 years I've been active in theatre here, was The Weir.
Yes.
By Conor McPherson, which you directed.
I did, indeed.
And I love that play. I love that show. It was a fantastic experience.
We enjoy our McPherson here at Burning Coal. That was not the first and won't be the last. But we have settled this year on another English playwright, the late great Harold Pinter. You are from England originally, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing, how you got to the Triangle, and what your training in theater was, and your experience before you got here?
Yeah, sure. I was a theatre kid. I was in all the school plays. I joined a local community theatre in my hometown, and was in everything going. I was in the National Youth Theatre in England for a little while.
Right.
Majored in drama at Bristol University, which actually is the same. That's where Pinter went.
Right.
And he also read drama at Bristol several years before me. And I figured before I went to college that I was probably going to want to train as an actor afterwards. But part of the great thing about the course Bristol is that you got to experience everything in terms of practical theatre making, stage management, direction, design, lighting design, not so much writing, but in terms of actually mounting a production, you were involved everywhere.
They were training Renaissance men and women for the field, not specialists.
Yes, and also it was primarily an academic program. With a good chunk of practical work thrown in, but I'm sure enough when I graduated, I still wanted to be an actor. So I did a 1-year postgrad training at the Drama Studio in London. Okay. And then started working. My first job was actually in the Netherlands with a company named KISS. An avant-garde group, the International Theatre Research Group, KISS. Okay. And we did some pretty astonishing work, including a 24-hour show.
Did you play just in the Netherlands, or did you tour around the continent?
The first year it was just in the Netherlands. The second year we went to Australia, okay, and toured several cities there.
Yeah, I'm interested in the idea that you were at Bristol shortly after Harold Pinter himself. Did he leave traces behind? Did you know when you were there that this very successful playwright had followed, or that you were following in his footsteps to some degree?
Yes, there's a pretty impressive list of alums from the drama department of Bristol University, of which he was definitely one, right, and one of the sort of the highest profile. Right. But he didn't have a theatre named for him or anything.
Right, not yet.
No, right.
It's coming, yeah. So what was your first experience with Pinter? Do you remember? Do you remember the first time you picked up one of his scripts or walked into one of the theaters doing one of his plays?
I know I read a lot of them. I don't remember which was the first, but I was in the production of The Dumb Waiter
Very good.
as during my time with Kiss.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. It's a strange little show. It's kind of amusing and kind of black at the same time, which I guess is pretty typical of Pinter.
There was an American television version of that. Do you know? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
I didn't see it.
I believe it was the ABC, and it was in the early '70s, and it was right when John Travolta was beginning to take off as an actor, and but before Saturday Night Fever, so it was Welcome Back, Kotter. Was
Right.
his first big thing,
Yeah.
and so the Dumb Waiter was filmed for television. It was shown, as an hour-long special. With, I believe, if my memory serves, I believe it was John Travolta and Tom Conti in those two roles.
Wow.
Yeah, and I seem to recall, and we're going to have to do research on this, but I seem to recall that it was actually shot from a dumb waiter. Like the camera was in the
Okay.
dumb waiter shooting them as they moved around the room. I'm going to have to go back and look at that because that seems too good to be true. But yeah, that's fascinating. And he has so many great short plays. Just maybe a year and a half ago, there was a company of artists in London that got together, rented, I guess, a West End theater, big, West End theater, and did an entire season of Pinter one acts. I think there were
Excellent.
21 of them, and they would do 2 or 3 at a time, and had big stars in them. People like Kenneth Branagh was in one of the series, and so people came running toward this. This was right after he had passed away, and so he has both the well-known great plays like The Caretaker, The Homecoming,
The
Birthday Party, right? But he also has just a number of very short, very precise plays that look at very interesting and very political, I think, issues. Does Pinter's politics affect or shape Moonlight at all, do you think? Or is it, on the surface it's about a family, right, or a couple of families actually. Do you feel like his politics are in there at all, or do you think he kept those out deliberately this time?
I'm not conscious of a lot of politics in it. Certainly not overt. So yeah, no, that's my answer. No, I don't think it did.
Do you have a strong sense of what it is about yet? You haven't started rehearsals yet. You're still several weeks away, but do you have a sense of what the play is about? His plays can be very abstract, I think.
They're certainly very dense. We start rehearsals in about end of the month. So
right. Halloween.
Yep, 3 weeks, three weeks or so. It's about family, obviously. It's about loyalty and betrayal. It's about disconnection between family members. It's about love and the lack of love. That's what I'm gathering from my first few readings.
Tell us about your character. Tell us about Andy a little bit, to the extent that you have a grasp of it yet.
Yeah, Andy is he's retired. He was a leading civil servant in the government. He is very he likes order. He talks at one point about the structure which ensured the ordered government of all our lives. Very important to Andy is that the system, that things be be in place, and that they are adhered to. And part of his struggle is that his sons are have rejected him and everything he stands for,
including that sense of order.
Yes. Yeah. So and that's a major cause of I would say misery in his life. That these boys who came from him are just pretty much divorced from him in terms of any emotional closeness at all.
And the women in the play quite a central role as well. Your wife and also the wife of a very good friend of yours who was a lover as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the Andy's wife is Belle, and his lover is Maria. And those two, Belle and Maria, were also lovers for a while. And layer upon layer of deceit and betrayal going on all at the same time, whilst there's quite a lot of admiration from Andy for Maria, who's able to juggle these various relationships and somehow come out on top. Physically as well as metaphorically, I guess.
Yes, indeed. On some level, it feels like Andy is dying, or thinks he's dying in the play, or those around him thinks he's dying. Do you think that's true? Or
I do. Yes, I do.
Think so?
I mean, obviously, as you said, we haven't started rehearsals yet, so when we do, there may be very different things emerging in discussion as we work on the piece. But yeah, I'm approaching it that the many references to Andy dying, his deathbed, are real. That he is on the way out. It's never explicated what he's dying from, and that's presumably something that we'll discuss in rehearsal. But I noticed through the play he becomes sort of more, particularly towards the end, more disoriented. Where things are happening presumably to his body that he doesn't understand, doesn't recognize. And I think that probably the last, I don't know how many it is, but a dozen, 15, maybe 20 of Andy's statements, almost all of them are questions. What's going on? Basically, I don't know where I am, I don't know what's happening, which to me is a sign. Again, we haven't started rehearsals, so this could easily change, but signs that he is scared of what's happening. He doesn't know what's involved in the process of dying, and it's scary to him.
There's a tremendous amount of humor in the play too. It seems to me Ian Holm played that part originally, and it's difficult for me to imagine him not squeezing every ounce of the humor out of the play. Do you see that on first glance?
Yes, well, maybe not first glance, but certainly fifth and sixth and seventh. Yes, and Pinter is an amazing writer. He's one of those writers where every single word is chosen for a reason, and so which is a challenge for an actor to learn every single word exactly right. But yeah, there's a lot of some of it is fairly ribald, the humour, but it's also as well as being dense, the play is quite subtle. So yeah, there's some humour that's sort of obvious, but there's a lot of it is very subtle and will be revealed. I hope as we rehearse the thing.
When we're very young, babies, we do very little other than eat and sleep and poop, and as we get near the end of our life, perhaps that cycle repeats itself, with the only difference being that we have some awareness of it this time, and maybe that's part of where the humor comes in. It's just being aware of what's happening to us, I guess. So we've talked about Andy and his wife. We've talked about his friend and and his wife and the lover of at least two of the other characters. And we've talked about your sons, but there's another character in the play as well.
Andy and Belle's daughter Bridget, who is I'm not quite sure what to make of Bridget at this point, and again I'm very excited to see how this emerges in rehearsal. But she's more of an ethereal presence. You're not quite sure, or I'm not quite sure reading it, whether she's actually there or if she's also absent like the sons, and is just a sort of more of a spiritual communication that he has with her. Certainly she doesn't engage directly with the other characters, or at least with her parents. But she's a strong presence in the play. Yeah.
The first time I read it, which was many years ago now, I had the sense that she was almost a need in his life, maybe that something that had never been present for him, and that Pinter had found a way to give voice to that missing part of Andy's life, which is not uncommon for people, I guess, of that generation, you know, of the men congregated together and the women congregated together, and the relationships, such as they were either of a subservient relationship or of a sexual nature, but that there are other things in life, that other needs in human beings that perhaps were given less attention. I was also going to ask you, so Greg Hersoff will be directing the piece. Greg, for those of you who don't know, was the artistic director of the Royal Exchange Theatre in Manchester, England, which is one of the largest what we would call a regional theatre in the UK, and he ran that theatre for 26 years and has worked with many of the great actors of the latter half of the 20th century. We were talking about that he had directed Michael Sheen in a play at the National Theatre. He directed Cush Jumbo in a Hamlet, a very successful Hamlet at the Young Vic. You have some connection to Greg tangentially.
Tangentially, yeah. We're both Brits, obviously. We were both born in the same year, and I've read his book. He has an online book which each chapter has a credit section where he lists the people who were in the plays he's talking about. And I recognize several of those names, people either I was at university with, or a couple of instances in the National Youth Theatre with. And so when Greg comes at the end of the month, I'm looking forward to getting together with him and seeing exactly how much we have in common.
Have a cup of tea and and chat.
A cup of tea and some toast and Marmite.
That's great. He's talked a little bit about, and I don't know, this may catch you off guard a little bit, and I apologize if it does, but he's talked a little bit about the idea of seeing how Pinter's language plays in an American setting, but you are not, by birth American, although you've lived here for several decades now. But I'm just interested, have you thought about that, about being a Brit in America and now doing a British play at all?
That's happened quite a bit. I'm kind of lucky. There's a lot of English plays happening around here, and with my accent, I'm in demand.
Especially around here.
I'm curious whether I think I'm the only Brit in the cast.
Yes.
And I have done shows where I've had to assume an American accent. It's not my favorite thing because like everybody's American and they can hear how I'm probably a little hyper self-critical, but
right.
Everybody can hear the slightest little mistake I make in my accent because they're used to it all the time.
Right.
So I don't know if I will be asked to put on an American accent for this. Or, in my own life, I've lived in the States for 30 years and I I still have a British accent.
But you've heard our accents plenty enough. A couple of the actors, actually the women, the two wives in the play, have Eastern European backgrounds. I think Jen and Tamara both not born there, but first generation, I think, from there, if I'm not overselling that. So, and it's a very strong cast. I am very excited to have you leading that cast, but Jen Sahanik, who has just done marvelous things for our company over the years, Tamara Farias, who I would put in the same category.
She and I played Gertrude and Claudius in a production of Hamlet about 8 years ago.
Yes, with David's
David Henderson, with Honest Pint, yes.
Yep. I saw that production, a very good production. And then Mark Filiacci is in it, and we also have the sons are quite strong, and then we have the young lady who is playing the female lead, one of the two female leads in Arcadia, who is Susanna Skaggs, who has started to make quite a career for herself in television and film. But she auditioned for the season, and I was a little surprised. That she would be able to commit that much time to one of our shows this year, and then but then when the time to cast came, I realized that she could do and would be fantastic in either Moonlight or Arcadia, and so I offered her a choice.
And she said both.
She said, I want both. And I said, you realize there's 2 days off between one and the other? And she said, I want both.
Okay, good.
And she is, if her work in Arcadia is any example, it's going to be just an electrifying cast from A to Z.
She was actually in the first show I did here at Burning Coal. She was in Written in the Heart. She played the young prince.
You will be astonished at the change that's come over her.
I mean, she was 15 or 16 at the time, and that was a number of years ago. She's a young woman now, not a girl.
And her brother David had done our Iron Curtain trilogy when we took it over to London. He was the boy in The Prisoner's Dilemma.
Okay, and he was also in Written in the Heart.
Yes, he was. That's right. The two of them together were in it. Yeah. Well, Simon, it's great to have you here. It's great to talk a little bit about Moonlight and about Harold Pinter and about your own life and work. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing you leading a cast here. I guess you could say that for The Weir. The Weir was such an ensemble.
It was ensemble piece, but I probably had more words to say than anybody else.
You were the most. Well, Dossie might have given you a run. His character was pretty verbose as well.
Although he didn't show up until halfway through.
That's right. That is correct. Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to it again. That's Moonlight by Harold Pinter, opening at Burning Coal Theater Company on November 30th and running through December 17th. Tickets are available at burningcoal.org, or you can just give us a ring at 919-834-4001. Thanks for joining us today. Simon, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.